The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. The Workweek of 4 hours. It sounds great, doesn't it? It seems like a fantasy. You only have to work 4 hours a week instead of the usual 40. And it's not as if you're losing money. Because you make what most people do in a year and a month. So instead of working at your desk for 35, 40, or even 45 years before you retire, you have the freedom and flexibility to enjoy your life right now. It sounds really cool. It seems like a fantasy. In fact, it sounds like a pipe dream, something that might work for some very, very lucky people but probably won't work for you. Look, this isn't a dream. Tim Ferriss says that there is a recipe that anyone, including you, can follow to do this. So, if you're ready to get to work, let's take 40 hours and cut them in half. You'll learn how to use the 80-20 rule to your advantage, how to set up a passive stream of income, and where to look for your muse. This is why the text version and the audio version might be different. If you are trying to decide whether to read or listen, we strongly suggest that you listen. So you're working 40 hours a week. You might even be working more than that. You are always worn out. You're always stressed out. You would do anything to get away from your daily routine, but it seems like you can't. You're stuck in your job. You need your job. Well, there is a way to get out of the 9-to-5 job. There is a way to do it. But let's talk about where you're escaping to and how the author got there before we get to the formula. The goal is to join the new rich. The new rich is a group of people who are mobile and have financial freedom. They aren't bound by anything. Where they go is up to them. What they do is up to them. They've come to realize that now is the time to follow your dreams and really live your life. How do you do this, though? How do you live out your dreams and make the most of your life right now? Here's something else that the new rich have figured out. To do this, you basically only need two things: more freedom and more free time. Most of what people think of when they think of millionaires, long trips, expensive hobbies, and maybe even a butler, adds up to two things: more freedom and more free time. You can have these things even if you don't have $1 million in the bank. So, the goal is to have more freedom, have more free time, and become one of the new rich. Both of these things happened to the author by chance. He was in a situation in 2004 that might be similar to yours. He was overworked. He was worn out. He worked too much and was so tired that he had a burnout and had to take a break. But this break ended up being a good thing. During his time off, he traveled around the world and learned that he could run a profitable business from anywhere. And that he didn't have to work hard to do it. So, in an instant, he became one of the new rich. Even though it sounds like magic, it's not. Remember that you only need two things to live a luxurious life: more freedom and more free time. They are what you need to be able to do what you want, when you want, and from where you want, and you can't get either of them by working a standard 40-hour week. So let's get to that formula, the one that will give you all the freedom and free time you could ever want. The name of the formula is the DEAL formula. Also, it means elimination, automation, and liberation. Let's start with D, which stands for definition. We have already started making some new definitions, as you may have noticed. We've already started to change what wealth means. Remember that being a millionaire doesn't just mean having a lot of money in the bank. It's all about doing what millionaires do. In short, having a lot of money isn't the same thing as being wealthy. It's about being able to do things that rich people do, like spending months on a beautiful tropical island, skydiving whenever you want, or even just spending more time with your family. So, having money means being able to do the things you want to do. It's not about how much money you have. It's about how free you are and how much time you have. Happiness is another word you need to change. Most people would say their goal in life is to be happy, but what does that mean? Well, the author says that boredom, not sadness, is the opposite of happiness. So excitement is the best way to describe happiness. To be truly happy, you should spend your time doing things that you find interesting. This meant that the author had to go on trips, become a kickboxing champion, and set a tango world record. It could mean something very different to you. But the point is that buying a house, having a great job title, and having millions of dollars in the bank won't make you happy if you're not excited about what you're doing with your life. Since happiness isn't some far-off goal that you'll only reach when you have enough money or enough things, and since wealth isn't about having a lot of money, the question isn't how to make as much money as possible, but how to get as much free time as possible so you can do all the things that make you happy. The E in the DEAL formula stands for elimination. Okay, folks, it's time to get rid of people. If you're anything like the author used to be, You'll get about 80% of your work done with only 20% of your effort. This is called the 80-20 rule, and you might not have noticed it at work because the typical 8-hour workday hides it. Most people have to work for 8 hours, so instead of focusing on how productive they are, they focus on how busy they are. They clean out their inboxes, fiddle with their phones, and walk from cubicle to cubicle with an air of superiority. And the person who looks the busiest usually gets the raise, since time spent at work is the only measure of performance at most companies. But about 80% of what they do is pointless. Spending a lot of time on work doesn't mean you're doing the right things or doing them well. In fact, that's not the case. In fact, Parkinson's law says that the more time we have to do something, the longer it will take us to do it. So, if we have an hour to finish the final report for our project, we'll do it in an hour. But if we have the whole afternoon, all 4 hours of it, we'll take the whole afternoon. Find the 20% of tasks that will give you 80% of the results and then put them in order of importance. And this means getting rid of all tasks and activities that don't help you reach your own goals. How can you figure out what these important tasks are? Well, go through your list of things to do and ask yourself about each one. Would I be happy if this was the only thing I did today? If the answer is no, it could be taken out of the running. You should look out for things that stop you from doing important tasks from start to finish without stopping. Time wasters may be the most expensive kind of interruptions. A time waster is any task that you don't have to do but could if you didn't. The most common ones are going on the internet, answering emails that aren't important, making phone calls, and going to meetings. All things that waste time can and should be taken away. But let's just talk about ways to get rid of email as one of them. You can start to stop checking your email by reading and responding to messages twice a day, in the afternoon and in the evening. If you can do that, why not take it 1 or 2 steps further? Try to only check your email once a day or even once a week. Keep your friends, family, and coworkers informed as you do this. You can do this by setting up an auto response that tells them you're limiting the time you spend on email so you can serve them better and that it may be a while before you respond. People will get used to you and learn that most messages can wait in your email inbox or voicemail while you work on things that are more important. If someone has a really important request, they can always call you or come talk to you in person. If you let a lot of small questions and tasks pile up in your inbox, you can handle them all at once. This will save you time and free you from interruptions that get in the way of more important work. All of these suggestions should help you get a lot more done. They don't add up to a 4-hour work week, though. If you want to spend more time in a hammock on a remote island with a drink in your hand, you'll have to break free from the place where your work keeps you tied down. So far, you've used half of the deal formula in your work life. You've set your goals, replacing the goal of wealth with the goal of having more freedom and free time and the goal of happiness with the goal of excitement. And you've stopped doing some time-consuming things, starting with the way you use email. But if you work for someone else, you can't just jump to automation. Employees must first get out of the office, so the formula is now called the DELA formula instead of the more memorable deal formula. Okay, workers, here's how you can get out of the office. Now that you know what your goals are and have cut out all distractions, you are much more productive. You may even be able to do in 10 hours what it takes your coworkers 40 hours to do. But keep in mind that most workplaces reward activity, not productivity. This means that you'll always have to put in 40 hours per week, no matter how little time it takes you to finish your work. The answer is to get out of the office. This will not only let you work less, but it will also let you work from anywhere you want. How do you do this disappearing act? How do you leave the office without being seen? Well, there are 5 steps you must take. These are them. Make yourself more valuable to the company. Show that you get more done when you work from home. How much will the business gain? Propose a trial period increase how much you work from home. For an example of how this works in real life, let's meet Sherwood. He wants to spend more time on his side business, which is selling sailor shirts on eBay. Here's how he left the office without a trace. He begins by making himself very useful. He talks to his boss about getting more training that would help him help the company's customers better. His goal is to make himself more valuable to his boss. The more valuable he is, the more likely it is that they will give him extra freedoms, like letting him work from home. In the meantime, he does a little test. On Tuesday and Wednesday, he calls in sick and says he will work from home. He picks these days so it doesn't look like he's trying to get a 3-day weekend and so he can see how productive he is without the promise of 2 days off at the end of the week. On these days, he keeps track of how much work he does with numbers and an email trail. He also doubles the amount of work he does on purpose, which is easy because there are no office distractions. Then, Sherwood makes a proposal. The proposal explains why his boss will benefit from him working from home and why he's more productive away from the office: no commute, fewer distractions. At this point, he suggests a trial period that can be ended at any time. He will work from home 1 day a week for 2 weeks. The idea is accepted, and when Sherwood works from home, he makes sure that he is twice as productive as when he is at the office. This gives him more proof that working from home is good for the company. Now, all he has to do is slowly add more days away from the office until he can work from home every day. And this should be easy, since his boss is seeing more work from him. Sherwood will then be able to work from pretty much anywhere in the world. Now is the time to talk about automation, which is the A in the deal formula. If you want to separate the time you spend working from the money you make, you need automation. By setting up automated sources of income that can be managed from anywhere in the world, you can live any kind of life you want, just like today's new rich. This is because you won't have to spend all your time working to make money. Now, if you want to set up an automatic way to make money, you need to start a business that works without you having to do anything. It should pretty much run itself. So, instead of distributing your product yourself, you could work with a company that can do that for you and hire a company to take care of your website. You shouldn't have much of a role in this setup. All you should do is read the reports your service providers send you and step in when you need to, but not more often than that. So how can you make sure that work goes well while you're away? First, everyone should be able to talk to each other without being told what to say. No one should have to tell you anything. Second, you should give the people you've given tasks to as much responsibility as you can. People won't need your help or approval to solve problems, which will save you a lot of time and give you a lot more freedom. But who should actually do all this work? You could hire virtual assistants as one choice. Virtual assistants can be hired from almost anywhere, like Canada, India, Poland, and so on. As long as a person has the right skills, where they are doesn't matter much. The author has found that virtual assistants from India are much cheaper and are often as good as, if not better than, their counterparts from the English-speaking West. If you're still worried about the price, think about how much your time is worth. Let's say you make $25 an hour now and a good assistant costs $30 an hour. This means that the assistant will save you $5 for every hour of work she does. In other words, for just $40, you could take a whole Friday off. Finding a good virtual assistant is mostly a matter of trial and error, so ask other people about their experiences and don't give up if the first one you try doesn't work out. There are perfect virtual assistants out there, and it's worth the work to find them. Of course, you need a product to sell if you want to set up an automated income stream and build the infrastructure to support it. This could be an already made item that you decide to sell again, like Sherwood's sailor shirts. The only problem with this strategy is that reselling an already made product means making less money. So it's better to make your own product, something that will make you as much money as possible with as little work as possible on your part. How do you do that, though? Well, the best way to begin is to look at the markets you know best and come up with product ideas based on what you find. Let's call your best idea your muse to set your business apart from a traditional startup, which isn't what you're going for. Your muse doesn't have to be run by you like a startup does. At the end of the day, you don't want to be an entrepreneur because you don't want to spend all your time in strategy meetings, leading, and managing. You're trying to set up a way for money to come in automatically. The best place to look for inspiration is in a niche where you don't have to spend a lot of time or money to get started. Sherwood's idea is a good example. He figured out that he could make money by reselling sailor shirts without putting any money into it. Or, take the author. In 2001, he started an online company to sell the dietary supplement Brain Quicken and made a lot of money with very little work. Practically speaking, it doesn't matter what your muse looks like. You need to do better than your competitors and show potential customers that you're the best person to buy from. This can be done by getting a PhD or other signs of credibility. Or, if you don't have time to go to grad school, you can show your expertise in other ways, like by going to seminars or doing thorough research with the help of textbooks and websites. You don't have to be the most knowledgeable person in the world. You only need to do better than your competitors and persuade your customers. Okay, but how do you know if your product, your inspiration, will make people buy it? Well, the only way to find out is to ask people if they want to buy it. This is the best test, really, it's the only test. You have to give the hypothetical product to real customers and see how they react. Let's go back for a moment to Sherwood, our friend who sells shirts. You might be wondering how Sherwood knew that his idea would make money. Well, he started selling sailor shirts on eBay even before he bought his first one. If you clicked on his offer, you were told you could only back order the product. This was a lie, but Sherwood did it to find out how much demand there really was. He made his first order once he knew how many shirts were likely to sell. Then, when Sherwood sold 12 shirts in 5 days, he bought 24 more and sold them in 12 days. He kept a close eye on the demand, and his sales kept going up until he started to think about quitting his other job. Or think about Joanna, who teaches yoga and thought of a great idea for a muse. She had noticed that more and more climbers were coming to her class. When she checked to see if something like that already existed, she found that it didn't, so she made a DVD with a special yoga course for climbers. She made a website with comments from her students and ran several Google AdWords ads. By looking at the click-through and conversion rates, she could get a better idea of how much demand there was and which search terms worked best. Once she had all this information and was pretty sure that her muse would be a hit, she made a DVD and started selling it. Sales were better than she thought they would be. During the first week, she made back the money she spent on making the product and the $250 she spent testing it. Now, she sells 10 DVDs a week and makes $750 in profit. Not bad for a first inspiration. So, let's say you follow in Sherwood and Joanna's steps and find out if people want your product. That's awesome. But there are a few things to think about when making it that will help it do well. First, you should be able to say in one sentence what the product is for. When Apple first came out with the iPod in 2001, everyone knew what it was for because of the slogan that went with it, 1,000 songs in your pocket. Second, you should make it as easy as possible for customers to decide to buy your product. Don't give them a lot of options to choose from. The more colors and designs your customers have to choose from, the less likely they are to buy your product because it's tiring to compare them all. Third, to get the right kind of customers, you should set the price of your product high, between $50 and $200. This will give your product a high-end look, increase your profits, and make it less likely that people will complain. The idea behind this is that someone who is willing to spend that much money is less likely to complain if the product doesn't live up to expectations. They will have money to spare and won't care enough about the loss to make a fuss. And lastly, your product should make a big promise and then keep it. Take Domino's Pizza, which says it will bring your pizza to you in 30 minutes or less. If not, your pizza is on the house. Big promise. And always delivering. Or think about what the author said about Body Quick. He promised that it would work 110% of the time within 60 minutes of the first dose. This meant that if you didn't see results within an hour of taking the first dose, he'd give you your money back and send you a check for 10% of the price. These big promises show your customers that you are serious about your product and give them the extra confidence they need to buy. The main point of this book was that you shouldn't spend the rest of your life working in an office until you retire. Instead, you should join the new rich and start enjoying life right now. Start by redefining what you want to do, and then focus on the 20% of tasks that will have the most impact. Next, get out of the office by showing that you work better at home and stop checking your email all the time. Lastly, you can make your income more automatic by finding and testing your muses. If you do these things, you'll be well on your way to living the life you've always wanted. And here are some things you should do to put what you've learned to use. Create a dream plan. Write down everything you want to do and be in the next 6 months, as well as everything you want to accomplish. Now, figure out how much this would cost you each month. Make a monthly estimate of how much you're likely to spend on it, whether you want a sports car or a personal assistant, to learn to speak Greek fluently or to cook the perfect meal. Then, based on this number, figure out how much you want to make each month. Now you know how much you need to make to live your dream life. Thanks for watching.